Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with educator and writer Antoinette H. Jones. She is a writer driven by a sincere desire to enrich the lives of young people through the magic of storytelling. As life unfolded its various paths, her unwavering love for the written word and its power to connect remained steadfast and fueled her decision to become a children's author at the age of 49. Much like a character in her book, Antoinette is a city girl turned suburbanite. Through her writing and life experiences, she hopes to inspire and uplift young hearts, reminding them that they are never alone in this journey. Enjoy this story.
Excellent. Well, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting in to your life of storytelling and being a writer and all of the stories and the history that has gone into your career. And to begin that process, I want to ask you first and foremost, COVID was quite a thing 4 years ago. We were still trying to figure out how long the whole pandemic was going to last and how it was going to affect us. Ultimately, how did you get through that time period, and how did it change the way that you approach life now here in 2024?
Yes, I agree. COVID was a big change for a lot of us. I got through with family. We all had to hunker down, of course, and build our little pods of people who were okay to hang out with and try to be safe. So it was really family that got me through that time. And professionally, it changed the way I do business now, because now I'm an author. Like during that time, I was working for the education system in the administrative offices, and it was really hard. Like the pivot for teachers and staff was really hard, and students were struggling, and it was really tense for everybody. And once we made it through, I think a lot of us made choices that changed the way that we function every day. And one of mine was, okay, I've got to do something that I feel like is contributing, and I got to do something that I feel like has an impact on people's daily lives.
So let's get into exactly what you do right now, and I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third grade students. It's career day, and one of the kids curiously asks, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I'm an author. I take the stories that are in my head and put them on paper for you and all your friends to enjoy.
So when you were in the third grade, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I honestly don't remember a specific career for myself in third grade. Like, I don't think that there was I had it figured out by then. I'm honestly not sure I have it figured out right now. But my goal was to be a lawyer, because that's what everybody told me I should be. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you are great at advocating for people, and you always love to argue your point. You should be a lawyer." So at third grade, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but it wasn't because it was my choice. It was more so because that's what I was told.
So talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how these seeds of being a storyteller and being a writer, how did all of this begin and take hold and become who you are today?
I grew up in D.C., so living in the city, spending my summers in the country with my grandparents, and then, like the character in my book, moving from the city to the suburbs and reading books, because I love to read books. And I started out with making stories with my friends and my dolls, and it just, when I got to the books that I wanted to read, I couldn't find books that represented me or the people I knew in my life. And so in sixth grade, I wrote my first story of the story I wanted to hear, the story I wanted to identify with.
What was the big book that you read when you were younger that really opened up the doors, that made you love reading or made you want to write one day?
I always gravitated towards stories that were female-led. So I was a big fan of Pippi Longstocking or Anne of Green Gables. But when I read Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, that was the story that moved me to want to write my own story, because I saw somebody who told stories about being in the country with her grandma, like I was in the country with my grandma, and I'm like, oh, so people will read these stories. People are interested in what we've done in the country and stuff like that. So that's the story that really propelled me to write my own story.
What was the first story that you wrote where you got a visceral reaction from somebody that really ignited that joy in you, that made you want to continue to pursue it or think that this is the career that you wanted to have for yourself?
In 7th grade, which is so funny, I had a teacher, Mrs. Hurd, my English teacher, who was amazing, and she gave us a project for writing, and we had to write and present for mythology. And I had to do a one about, I think her name was Arachnia. It was the person who was a leader, and I was writing the story, and I was trying to make it engaging, but I was also like doing it, as a 7th grader, so I didn't have a lot of life experience. But when I got up and read it and presented it in front of my class, like, they loved it. They laughed at parts that they thought were funny, and she was just like in the back giving me like a small applause for it. So that right there propelled me to keep going. Like, oh my gosh, I can write something that other people are interested in and they enjoy it.
So who's been a hero for you in your life? Who's been an inspiration?
I would say my 2 biggest heroes were my parents, who are both gone now, but growing up, watching them showed me that, even though when things are hard, you don't give up. Like, you don't quit. Both of my parents were both people who had lots of obstacles in their lives, but they did not give up, and it did not keep them from moving forward or being good, kind people.
So I'm curious, if you could meet anybody alive today, whether it's a writer or anybody else that you find inspiring, who would you love to meet and spend some time with?
I'd love to spend some time with Michelle Obama. Like, she is one of those people who inspires me. She has told her story, so we know a little bit about her, and we know the struggles that she's gone through as a female, as a wife, as a mom, and it doesn't keep her from having hope, and I think that's amazing, and I would love to spend some time and hang out and just listen to her stories and how her life has kept her positive. I think that's great.
So I read her book, her memoir biography, and I was talking last night about what's going on in the political landscape, and there is no way that she is going to ever enter the political arena. There's no way.
No.
I mean, she said it at the end, and I don't know how people keep bringing it up or mincing words, but that is a woman of conviction, and she is not going to change her mind.
No, and I think it's just, like the hope she has, clearly she has spread that throughout the world because people keep being hopeful that she will change her mind, but I'm with you. She made it very clear there is no way she's getting back into that, and I don't blame her.
Yeah, and you talk about the apex of irony right there, the fact that she's inspired that hope that it's not going to exist for her, and good for her. I mean, reading through those years of what she went through to try to shield the girls and to live her life and maintain that virtue of what she was given in Chicago growing up, she did a really good job of it. So I couldn't even imagine, and especially now with the way that it's turned into a clown show. There's no way that she's way too dignified to get involved with any of this that's going on right now.
I mean, and also like how violent it's gotten. Like, it's no longer just talk. It is scary. And she's done her time. Like, she already risked her life for us for 8 years. She's like, I'm good. You guys pick somebody else.
Yeah, she punched that ticket many, many times. In fact, I remember seeing Barack in Kansas City when my son was 3, and how I'm just thinking about what happened recently with security. And, we saw them in a pretty populated area in downtown Kansas City, and there was no metal detectors, there was no anything. So I just wonder how those things happen at rallies like that. It just seemed like, if people wanted to get in, there wasn't any. I mean, I know there's people walking around, but it's interesting how those things actually work out. And I don't know, it just shows how volatile and scary this world can be, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that it's also, times have changed a bit as well. Like, during those times, even though people disagreed, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a violent time in everyday life. Like, I honestly believe that most people are good. I just do. I think that, there are people who get more time in the media and on screen, but I don't think that's the majority of people. So I think that those times, the majority of people were just trying to be heard or just trying to be seen or just trying to be present. Whereas now people are really taking these things and becoming angry past the point of words.
Yeah.
So I think we have to change with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was a political civility. I remember when McCain corrected somebody that was trying to throw out some huge lie. And so it would be good to return to those days. So let me ask you this. What is the motivator for you every day to wake up, to consistently write, to create these worlds, to create these narratives? What is that inspiration for you?
Kids. I love kids. I worked in education for so long, and not as a teacher, but just because I love kids. I love the innocence of their behavior. I love how pure their conversation is, but I also love that they are able to see good in the world, and I want to encourage them to keep seeing the good in the world. So it's all about the kids for me.
So what's been one of your best fan letters, best fan responses you've ever gotten back?
I guess probably the first one, my first beta reader, and that was a child. She read it, and she came back to me, and she's like, "Oh, I love it." And she's like, "I want to know more." Like, that was the best thing. She's like, if you're writing a second book, you can ask me to be a beta reader again, because I really want to know what happens with these characters. And that just made my heart sing.
So what's the best advice you've ever gotten in your life?
I am a goal-oriented person, but I'm also very curious, so I'm always trying to find the answer to things. And I think the best advice I got was when I was with my aunt, who is passed now, and she said, "You're not going to know the answer to everything," which is simple, right? Everybody knows that you're never going to know the answer to everything. But just her saying it gave me a release that I didn't know I needed, to say, okay, so it's okay not to have the answer to everything. It's okay not to know everything. You can just live your life as it is without the pressure of having to figure out the answer to everything.
Wow, that is a refreshing piece of advice for sure. So of all of the things that you've done in your life and in all of the ways that you've evolved into who you are today, what are you the proudest of?
Well, of course, privately there's a whole bunch of things. But professionally, I would say I am the most proud of getting my book out. It was in my head. My husband, my daughter, and I, we were discussing it over family dinner and making jokes about it for a good 5 years before I actually got it out. And so actually getting the book on paper, published, and in the world is a huge accomplishment, and I'm very proud of that.
So if you had a dream tonight, you ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom that you gained throughout all of your journeys, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
I would tell my 18-year-old self that you are not responsible for everybody. I spent my teenage years, my younger years, trying to help everybody do everything. And I would just tell her, you are not responsible for everybody, so that she could take a break.
So at the end of the day, everyone out there has a perception of you, all of your readers, your family, your friends, everybody that knows you, but ultimately you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am, like I said, I'm a goal-oriented person, so I am somebody who lives my life with purpose. And I try to make sure that everybody I know and everybody who I'm in contact with feels heard. So I think I'm that person that makes people feel heard. I want them to know they're not alone in the world. Whatever that thing is that they have to offer is valuable, and I am here to show them that they are special, they are important, and they are seen.
So Antoinette, if anyone wants to get your work, they want to reach out, they want to learn more about you, any of the good business in your world, where's the best place for them to go?
Oh, the easiest place is just to go to my website, AntoinetteHJones.com. You can contact me there, and it has all of my links and everything that you need to go further. I'm happy to have anybody join our independence community, sign up for the newsletter, and email me, and I will email you back.
I love it, Antoinette. This has been so refreshing. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Keep creating the wonderful words.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.